Want to crush your opponents under giant fatties? Green.
Green is the color of growth, of nature. And then what it does is it has the access to get lands and mana and build. So it can get out huge, giant beasts and creatures so that it overwhelms the opponent. So with Garruk Corrupted, and we knew we needed someone else to fill the role right now of Green Planeswalker. And Nissa's someone who we've had before, but initially when we printed her years ago, she was very, very elf-focused. But there's more angles to her character, and she's a little bit more of a druid, a ranger, and so this time we really get to see a very different side of Nissa. One that's a green mage, one that's not Garruk focused on beast, but one that's very focused on the land itself.
We've really kind of worked on her and given her an opportunity to become what she was really kind of more intended to be, which is a shaman. So this card, you look at her, and she's doing the things of the land, she's untapping them, she's making the creatures, she's doing the very iconic green planeswalker stuff that we need now that Garruk has kind of turned into an evil black-green planeswalker.
Undergrowth Scavenger got a lot of comments inside Magic R&D because it doesn't look like the sort of thing that we often put at common these days, but Billy was very insistent that all of the color pair decks work and be distinctive. So to him, Undergrowth Scavenger was the motivation for the green-black graveyard deck, and he protected it quite a lot.
Invasive Species is this common that just bounces another permanent to your hand. These are always fun cards, because they're always costed a little bit like it's a drawback, but instead you're using it to get back a card that has like an enters the battlefield trigger, or to reset a card to cast it later, so it's you get it back for blocking. These always are so fun because it always feels like you're getting away with something a little bit.
My favorite deck to draft in this format has to be the green-blue enters the battlefield trigger deck that centers around Roaring Primadox, which is a green 4/4 that lets you just keep picking up and reusing your creatures. And we actually added another green guy that enters the battlefield and puts one of your creatures back in your hand, and a blue creature called Quickling that when it enters the battlefield puts a creature back in your hand. There's nothing I love more than reusing value from all of these ETB triggers, whether it's drawing cards or tapping your guys. It is just super fun to do.
We really wanted the best versions of all these decks to be spectacular. And because Roaring Primadox ended on the battlefield when we shipped the set, I think those decks will be that spectacular.
I like the card Ancient Silverback because we had it in the set early on during design, and it just won game after game after game in playtesting, so it brings back fond memories of early design.
Genesis Hydra by George Fan, another one of our external designers. This might be my favorite card in the set. Genesis Wave is just a fun card to cast. You get huge value. In this case, it's here's this enormous body, and the more mana that I pump into it, not only am I getting a bigger fatty, I'm also getting more chances to find something cool in my deck.
Whenever we do a returning mechanic for a set, we of course do want to have a big iconic card that reminds you of why the mechanic is awesome. And for this set it was Court of Calling. This was probably the most popular Convoke card in the original Ravnica set, and a lot of players were very confused about why we didn't include it in Modern Masters, because it's a card they really wanted to own. Well, of course we didn't include it because we were saving it for this.
Here in R&D, I get kind of a bad rap for being the guy that pushed the card Hornetsting all the way to print. It's a green direct damage spell that does 1 damage, and direct damage is not something that green should be allowed to do. Mark Rosewater gives me a hard time about this to no end. There are a couple cards in Magic 2015 that play up my love of the Hornets. One is Hornet Nest, which is a 0/2 ground creature that when it takes damage spits out an entire army of flying Death Touch Hornets. And the other is a reprint from one of our commander sets, the Hornet Queen, that comes pre-packaged with her own army of flying 1/1 Death Touch Hornets. So even though we don't have their sting, the Hornets are alive and well.
I was on a little bit of a token destroying crusade. Not that I hate tokens, it's just that I don't like having 4 different kinds of tokens on the battlefield because I get confused. So I saw that we had the Hornet Nest in the file, And Billy is like, well, what are we supposed to put in? And I'm like, we already have 1/1 green flying death touch insects. Just put Hornet Queen in there. And I kind of said it like I was bitter and angry. And as I'm like trying to be decisive and showy and make a point to this room, everyone kind of looks at me and starts giggling. And I'm like, what did I say? They're like, let's put Hornet Queen in. So yeah, we seem to have a tradition of putting weird color pie breaking stuff in core sets in green, and there are 2 of them now because I got angry and suggested we put Hornet Queen in the set, so bzzz.